So welcome, Dany. If you don't mind, we will stop sharing our screen and let you share yours. And if you don't mind introducing yourself to the group and then jumping into your presentation, we'll try and wrap things up in 30 minutes from now.
Good deal. All right. Well, Taylor, thank you so much. Hello, everybody. I'm Dany Capodieci from Capo Sales Consulting. And today we're going to learn about the beginning steps to create your own customized sales playbook for your business. So I am going to share my screen. I'm really excited to do this. I was really excited when Taylor reached out to do this type of talk because what I found is that this topic is so widely discussed, but not a lot of people talk about the mechanics of how to do it. So let me go ahead and just get that screen share going, and we can kick things off. You know what? Of course, give me just one moment. I'm going to stop sharing for a second.
As you're doing that, Dany, I just want to remind everybody, please throw any questions you have in the chat while Dany is presenting, and we can go over those at the end. Also, I see people throwing their LinkedIn in the chat. That's awesome. Please connect with everybody. I love it. Also, one thing that is always fun for me is if you could throw your time zone in the chat. It's fun to see how many different time zones we have. So just take a second and throw your time zone in the chat. Missed lunch. This is sorry you're missing lunch.
All right. Can everyone see my presenter screen here at the
Yep.
end? Cool. And you know what's funny is it looks like I haven't actually done this before, but that's not true. It's always when you go to do one of these presentations in front of people that this always happens. Taylor, give me just one moment. Something on my screen happened and I just need to grab it back.
Yep, no worries. I would also encourage everyone, if you haven't already, to follow Dany on LinkedIn. I've been watching Dany's posts for the last few months, and they're awesome. Great educational snippets that you can learn a lot about sales. So if you've got a second, jump onto LinkedIn, give Dany a follow.
All right, how does that look right now? Can we see
Perfect.
how do we customize sales playbooks? Why do these matter? All
Yeah.
right, great. Let's go ahead. Let's get rocking and rolling. All right. So why do customized sales playbooks matter? There are countless stats out there that I found, and they all preach similar messages. People need structure to follow. We need structure and we need tactical practice on executing sales motions. So according to Backlinko here, one additional follow-up message can increase reply rates by 65.8%. But HubSpot research tells us that salespeople only follow up 2 to 3 times on average before quitting. So let's break that down and let's break down these first two bullets that we see here. Now, do we think those reps in the first two bullets had a sales playbook? No, I mean, I don't. But if they did, they certainly weren't following it. And that would become really apparent in their lack of pipeline growth. And when you ask yourself why that would be really apparent, salespeople map out sales playbooks in this essence. They actually map out the key activity stats that predictably create pipeline. So in this third bullet here, what we see is 81% of sales and marketing teams do not review and correct their sales processes. So if you're a competitive person like me, that tells me if I have a competitive product or service and get really tight on my process, I can beat a high number of my competitors simply on using and executing on great sales process. The fourth bullet here, investing in training salespeople, that bullet speaks for itself. So just going through this real quick, why am I an authority on this topic and growing revenue? So in the last 2 decades, I've held every single role you can have in the sales organization. As a newly minted director of sales, I led teams through revenue growth strategies, achieving a $55 million exit with a $40 billion publicly traded private equity group. And that was during my late 20s. So the sales processes and sales approaches that I've put in place have won deals in markets that are frequently have 3 competitors or more, with the most being 12 other competitors in the active deal cycle. And I've myself have seen success in early stage startups, grown established sales organizations, and sold and managed sales teams in enterprise global markets. I've helped multiple companies rank on the Inc. 5000 list of the fastest growing privately owned businesses in North America. But that's enough about me. So let's dig in. Let's dig into the steps of what those steps look like when you're creating your own customized sales playbook. And if we have a couple minutes at the end, I'll share a story from my early days in my sales tech career from when I was 19. Okay, so what are the key traits of an effective sales playbook? The effective traits here, so the idea of a customized sales playbook is this. If you hire a salesperson tomorrow with any level of sales experience, could you hand them a playbook they could execute on from beginning to end to get a prospecting closing position? Closing position means predictably getting a prospect through the sales cycle steps to a proposal where you could, or they really could make a buying decision. The process steps are repeatable because 80% of the talk tracks are the same. The questions asked are the same. The prospect answers are different, but usually follow about 3 to 5 customer trends for the business. Any sales manager that studied the playbook can coach the process. Then sales ramp is predictable when someone follows the ideal customer profile and value proposition steps. Formats are easy to use, and we all know if things aren't simple, people simply won't do them. And sales especially takes the path of least resistance in this situation. So to recap, key sales playbook traits are any skill level can execute the playbook successfully. Any manager can coach the sales process. The process steps are repeatable. Sales ramp is predictable, and 80% of the talk tracks are the same. And above all, the playbook format has to be easy to use. So how do you start creating a customized playbook for your business? Before we run through that, I want you all to think of a sales methodology, really any sales methodology you've heard of. So give it a few seconds here. Okay, great. Do you have one in mind? A couple that come to my mind are Miller-Hyman consultative selling, Thomas Frazie's question-based selling, command of the message by force management, and MEDDIC is a really popular one today. So think of these methods, including the ones I just listed, as the what framework. They all provide you with a general sales structure to follow. A customized sales playbook is the how framework your teams can follow that include key pain points your solution solves, talk tracks that hit on key education points about your business and your market, value propositions, and specific questions that work to open the conversations. So you get the idea there. But how do you start creating a customized playbook for your business? The first step here is the review process. And I don't care how well you know your market, start with reviewing the deals you want to recreate. You identify deals to recreate and use steps like, where did the deal come from? Why did you win? Who are you selling to? And what title, role, industry, those kind of factors and elements. Next, define how, the how step. How did you win? How did you build value? What selling assets or tools did you use? And how long did the deal take to get into closing position? After that, go out, and this one's important. You have to go out and test your assumptions. When using your own defined steps, do you predictably get agreement, receive agreement from prospects to move to the next sales cycle step? Do deals repeatedly reach closing position or do they stall out? And is the time frame on these sales cycles for these similar deals, is time frame similar? So these are the beginning steps to creating a customized sales playbook for your own business. And at the end of this short presentation, I'm going to drop a link to a sales playbook template from us that you can use for free to guide yourself through and fill out the actual sales motions that you're using today that are bringing in revenue for your business. So we'll stick around. We'll get to that here in just a minute. All right, let's hit on another sales statistic. So 42% of salespeople consider prospecting the most challenging part of the sales process, compared to closing, 36%, and qualifying, 22%. So that's a HubSpot data point. And I'd agree with that statistic wholeheartedly. I've spent 18 years selling and crafting and executing on effective value propositions. And being able to have and build that effective value proposition and then execute on that in front of your prospects to book new meetings, it's still the most challenging aspect of what sellers do today. So let's touch on the elements of an effective value proposition. We're going to do some real live examples here. All right, so remember, we all need structure and we all need tactical practice. So the basic framework for a successful cold call is first a permission-based opener, then 3 industry pain points for your solution or service, and the benefits customers receive from using your solution or service. And you have to get the first 2 parts of this framework out confidently in about 30 seconds. That's the attention timeframe span you have with somebody if they say yes to wanting to hear your pitch. So what's a permission-based opener, or PBO? A PBO is an old Sandler method. And an example of a PBO is, I'm Dany Capodieci from Capo Sales Consulting. I want to be respectful of your time. Would you mind giving me 30 seconds to explain why I called you specifically? And then you can see if it makes sense to talk further. A few more examples of PBOs are, I'm Dany from Capo Sales Consulting. Yes, I'm a salesperson cold calling you. Want to take a chance and see why I picked you specifically to call today? Here's a third one that I like. I'm Dany from Capo Sales Consulting. Would you mind giving me 30 seconds of your time to explain why I called you specifically? And then you can see if you want to hang up on me or talk further. So cool. Let's run through the approach now when you pull all the different steps together. First, start with your sales opener. Frame your sales opener like a question, like you're talking or confirming this person on the other end of the phone. And sound something like, hi, Sean? Now add in your permission-based opener. And what Sean is typically going to do is say something like, yes, who's this? So when Sean asks that, you want to introduce yourself, obviously, and that goes something like, I'm Dany from Capo Sales Consulting. I want to be respectful of your time. Would you mind giving me 30 seconds to explain why I called you specifically? And then you can see if it makes sense to talk further. Sean, the prospect, will respond with something like, if you're lucky, sure. And just keep in mind, you're always going to hear and expect really some reluctance in that response. No one's usually excited to be on a cold call besides the salesperson. And sales, so the next response you have here is, I looked at your business profile, and based on the current growth stage I'm seeing online, I thought you might be experiencing unpredictable win rates, lumpy revenue growth, and deals getting stuck in no decision due to lagging sales cycle motions. My company helps businesses install repeatable sales practices that result in predictable revenue growth, reduce sales ramp time to revenue, and create customized sales processes that win larger deals. So next, pause, because on occasion, you might prompt somebody to ask you, how do you do that? And that's the ideal response you're going for. If you don't get that question, what you want to do is kind of move into your interest check and ask, does any of this sound interesting to you? So when you ask Sean, the prospect, that question, they might say something like, maybe, yeah, that sounds interesting, or yeah, we're working on something like that today. So next, explain how your company accomplishes these benefits for clients. Sales would respond to something like this. Okay, well, how we do it is we create a customized sales playbook based on your business. We mentor sales reps and coach them to your sales steps that you built the company on and win revenue. We've helped business owners do $55 million private equity exits, produce 766 average 3-year growth for early stage startups, and have coached sales teams selling in the enterprise space to help them win deals with businesses in the top Fortune 10 list. Do you think this kind of approach would help you win revenue? Sean the prospect, maybe say something like, perhaps. And then here you're asking for this meeting. This is the first time, notice, that I've asked for the meeting. The only time what I asked earlier was I asked for interest. So can we set up a time to talk about maybe helping you too? And I know that was a quick example, but that's really how fast cold calls can go. When cold calls go really well, the prospect starts asking you more questions. And you want to answer a few of these, but you don't really want to go too deep, because staying focused on your goal of this cold call is to book the next meeting. That's the goal. So to recap, the elements of an effective cold call are a permission-based opener, a minimum of 3 industry pain points your solution or service solves, the benefits customers receive from using your solution or service, asking for interest, not a meeting, and do a brief explanation of how you do what you do so flipping well. Then you ask for the meeting. So once you have this tool in place, and we have a sample framework structure to build this out in our template that we're going to give in just a minute, but you have to practice, because the real purpose of each sentence in your cold call is to get the listener to want to listen to what you have to say next and ultimately agree to a meeting. So if you look at your script and feel it doesn't achieve this, think about how a cold prospect would feel when hearing it, and work on the framework. So let's get next really tight on process execution. In line with that, practice, getting really tight in your sales process execution means that you need to put in regular daily habits. So here, what I've seen is 28% of sales professionals say the sales process taking too long is the biggest reason why prospects back out of active deals. And that's mainly due to reps recreating the wheel each time. People perform best when the guesswork is removed for them and they can execute on a sales cycle plan, or in our previous example, a cold call script. So once you have your own customized sales playbook put together, and start plugging the gaps that pop out in your sales cycles. So we've seen that 52% of sales pros use sales enablement content, and 79% of them say it's important to making the sale. So if you're finding prospects are asking the same questions, or you're needing to provide the same deep education before progressing in the sales cycle, solve for this using campaigns that focus on pain points and tools that educate buyers ahead of time. A couple examples of those campaigns that do education are nurturing campaigns that hit on specific pain points, or branding that truly differentiates your company. So by doing this in my previous teams, I saw an average increase of 30 to 42% in sales cycle velocity, which is the time it takes to get through the sales cycle from start to finish. Then coach your teams to use playbooks as a deal Bible, and implement daily practice with your team. We have practice formats too in that template we're going to drop in a minute. And you also want to identify continuous repeatable opportunities to increase sales velocity. So the point is trying to avoid creating content for just one prospect unless you're hearing these points over and over again. Let me skip over here because I think we're running up against time. So just a time check real quick. Do we have enough time left for a story?
Yes, totally.
Yeah. Okay. Let's hit on a story then. There was a story that came to mind about sales playbooks, and it truly was when I was 19 years old. When I was 19 years old and I closed my first software, it was a software hardware deal, but I closed that first deal because I was using a company sales playbook. And I was at this trade conference called the Sunbelt Builder Show, which was probably around the same time of year. I was traveling with the company owners, and at 19 years old, you can imagine it was my first business trip. I was really nervous and I didn't know what I was doing. I was 19 years old. I actually remember doing jumping jacks in my hotel room before the exhibit floor opened, to get some of that like nervous energy out that you have. And after I calmed down, I remembered I packed a 3-ring binder, those old, one of these old white 3-ring binders that had the sales playbook steps in it. And that morning I spent a couple hours memorizing those steps, really because I just couldn't sleep. I was so nervous. And guys, that conference sucked. We had very little qualified buyers come by the booth. And during that period, we even wrote a small number of quotes compared to what we usually do. We were using those old NCR forms. I don't know if anybody remembers those, but we stuck with it. And that's a big part of sales. People were talking about leaving, but we ended up staying because we had paid for the floor, we had paid for the booth, we paid for everything. And I kid you not, in the last 30 minutes of the conference, one of the owners and I each got a qualified prospect engaged. And we closed, I think back then, between the two of us, we closed a total of $12,000 right as the conference was ending. But when I mean your customized sales playbook should be a guide any skill level can follow, that's what I mean by this. If you can have anyone who has any type of skill level follow the steps in your customized sales playbook to get a deal in closing position, that's what this means. And that sales playbook, that's the only reason why this 19-year-old closed their first deal in the last 30 minutes of the conference. And by the way, my deal was bigger than the owner who happened to head up sales, all because I used the playbook steps that they had written back then. So that's it. Here we are. That's it for today. I just want to say thank you so much for the hosts for Midday Connect and for all of you showing up. This is why we do these events. So I'm going to drop this link here in the chat if I don't if I can figure that out. And then if you all click on this link, everybody, and hit the purple download button, that'll download a copy of the playbook directly to your desktop. So
Wow,
thank you.
thank you, Dany. That's awesome. Really appreciate you sharing the playbook, and also amazing insight and education today. We've got a couple of questions in the chat. We've got about 10 minutes or so also to go through some Q&A. So if you've got additional questions for Dany, please put them in the chat. Start off with, is it Lorecha? Am I saying that right?
Larisha?
Larisha, sorry. Do you want to come off mute and give any more context to your question?
Sure. So Dany, you said the goal of the call is not to answer all of the questions, but it's really to get the prospect to the next step, which is in a meeting. So in a situation where you have all of the answers to all of the questions that they have, how are you sort of pushing back to get around answering the questions and actually focusing on getting a meeting scheduled to answer the questions?
Awesome question, because like human behavior immediately, right, wants to answer those questions if you have all the answers. So here's the line of thinking. When you have people that are continuing to pepper you with questions in your cold call, that's a really great sign of interest. However, as sellers, we can't convert interest to actual value without going through some level of requirements and discovery steps on what would be impactful to the prospect we're speaking with. So that's really part of how I craft that response. And it goes something like this. Hey, I really want to answer all your questions, and I want to give you some thoughtful input on how you could potentially grow your business. In order to do that, I need to know a little bit more about what your current operations are today and what you're currently doing to grow revenue. So do you mind if if we table some of these questions and I can gather more insights with you in our meeting here? when are you available? Are you available Tuesday at, and then throw out a time?
Okay, thank you so much.
You're so welcome. My pleasure.
Thank you. Parker, you've got a question. Do you want to come off mute and share some context as well?
Yeah, sure. And I was actually just typing in another question too. So just had two quick questions. One, like if you get on a cold call with somebody and you can tell they're really busy, oftentimes I'm calling like school people that work in schools or in after school care, and there's like kids screaming in the background and they're rushed answering the phone. I guess, do you have any tips for that? Is it better just to say like, hey, if like, do you try to schedule another time to just chat, or do you still try to go through a bit of the pitch but quicker? That was one question. Then the second is just if you call and no one's answering for a long time and then someone answers, sometimes I feel kind of like cold because I'm not warmed up. I'm not talking to people often. Any tips for like kind of staying fresh or being ready for the time that someone does answer the phone?
Yeah, absolutely, Parker. Thanks for those questions. I'm gonna answer your second question first and then loop back to the first part of your question, okay?
Cool.
So the second part, I was talking with a sales rep friend of mine just about this the other day. A lot key, if you're working by yourself and you don't have a team where you can practice with daily, practicing by yourself when you're doing simple, this might sound silly, but it works. So while you're walking around the house cleaning up, practice your pitch. While you're walking the dog, practice your pitch. While you're cutting up vegetables for dinner, practice your pitch. Go all the way through the role play and play both sides. Like I'm serious. It's just like you see all those guitars in the background, or if you play a sport, playing the fundamentals and practicing those. The more you practice, the better you will get, the more comfortable you'll feel, which ultimately translates to you feeling more confident. So practice, practice,
Okay.
practice. If you don't have somebody to practice with, record yourself, practice. Uber, great idea, practice. Then the other part of your question. So here's the big reminder about human behavior. If people want to do something, they will. They'll figure it out. That means if you spark interest in a cold call, even if there are kids screaming in the background, I kid you not, I had people, I sold to people who had goats in the background. And it's all about gauging the behavior response you're getting from the person you're talking to. Are they actually listening to you, or are they going, uh-huh, uh-huh, uh-huh? Right? Obviously, when you get that, they're not engaged. And you don't, bless you, and you don't particularly want to shoot your value prop when you don't have somebody listening to you. But with how rare people answer the phone these days and how difficult it is to time that right to get somebody, when you get a live person, you want to pitch unless they tell you not to. And that's what your permission-based opener does. Right?
Gotcha. Yeah.
So permission-based opener says, do you have 30 seconds for me to tell you more about why I specifically called you today? If they say yes, go for it, Parker. Go until they tell you to shut up or book the meeting.
Okay. Yeah, sounds good. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Great advice. Dany, you talked about permission-based opening, but also Parker, I'm imagining Parker and Larisha maybe get voicemails or get sent to voicemail. Do you have suggestions on, do you leave a voicemail or call back later?
I do both. So if you only want to leave one voicemail in one particular day for calling, right? So the way that kind of works is it's an old school rule from just back in the day phone etiquette. You want to try, Taylor, you want to try people at different time intervals of the day. And that's actually in the playbook framework structure for cold calling. So there's some suggestions like call right after the hour mark. So call at like a good time to call is between 10 and 11 a.m. In the person's local time zone. That usually you can, or 11 to 12, those kind of hours are usually gaps. Sometimes people have those gaps between their last meeting and lunch, so they don't run right up against noon. Another example is trying in that like 1:30 to 3:30 mark. You can also, depending on the client profile you're calling into, so I call into a lot of C-suite and executive owner decision makers. When you're talking to that audience, trying to catch them during the end of their day where we're all sitting there kind of doing the, like, putting out the little fires that didn't need immediate attention, or kind of crossing things off our list, that's also a pretty good time to call people. So yes, leave voicemails, but also play around with the time zone and the time that you're calling to try and catch people at different times in their schedule.
Great advice.
Danny, question on that real fast. Sorry, Taylor.
Go ahead.
To add on to that, so Jeb Blunt over at Sales Gravy in his book Fanatical Prospecting, him and Jason Eman touched on the fact that you can also call before hours, maybe not too early, and leave a voicemail and saying, hey, hey, Danny, I just wanted to send this reel over. That way I'm not interrupting your day, and you can call me back whenever works best for you. Have you seen that work a lot? So I'm good friends with Jeb and worked with him, and I've used that one too. And I feel like a lot of times it slips their mind kind of to call back, and first thing in the morning they have fires to put out, like you said. And so I haven't found tons of success. Wondering with you on that one, because I love what they're doing over there, but that's the one thing that I'm like, same thing. You want to leave perfect voicemails, but when is the best time to leave the voicemail is really the more question.
Yeah, good question. I love that you brought up Jeb Blount and Sales Gravy. I remember reading Fanatical Prospecting, maybe, I don't know, 10 years ago when I saw him speak, but let me get here. I'll answer your question. I kind of think of voicemails now these days the same way I think of an effective email cadence. The response rates, I think, going off the top of my head, are less than 5% for voicemails, even. Right? So I think of emails and voicemails kind of in the same camp. You want to leave them and do them to make your time when you reach somebody live that more effective.
Yeah.
You're introducing somebody to you, and a LinkedIn connection, a social post, just like Taylor mentioned, a well-targeted email, a well-thoughtful voicemail, all of those things help make your cold call live connection go better. So that's really how I think of it and use it. I don't see great. I mean, the stats are the stats, really. We hate calling people back these days.
It's true. I think I saw a stat just barely from another training company that they pulled it from, and I think it's people receive 30 to 40 prospecting emails a day, about 4 to 5 LinkedIn messages per day, and 1 to 2 prospecting calls per week. Where you think you get more, but they're like, you really don't. And then as well as they also were like video messages are key, whether you can add a video to your email or LinkedIn. Those I've seen great success on our sales. I'm a fanatical, person on making calls. I don't send a lot of emails because they just, like you said, they're good touches, but they're not great response rates. But the video messages have been very effective recently.
Nice. No, that's a great point. And since you asked, I just remembered there was a cold email I actually responded to this morning. And the reason I responded is because it was way different than any of the other formats. And I had something like Dany with like 4 exclamation marks in the subject line, and it went right into their value prop. It didn't have any fluff like, hi, how are you? I hope this email finds you well, all of that stuff. I mean, there's data that says a greeting works, but I don't know. I think I kind of question what the greeting really is these days.
Yeah.
Awesome. Dany, this has been fantastic. We're at time, so I would encourage anybody, if you've got additional questions, reach out to Dany on LinkedIn or via email or via phone. Looks like you've got all of them there, Dany. Thanks. Really appreciate you sharing your experience and helping us understand sales better. So thank you very much, Dany, and appreciate everybody coming. We'll be back here next Tuesday at 11 a.m. Mountain Time. Looking forward to seeing you all here. And thanks again for coming. Appreciate it. Have a great week.
Take care, everybody. Goodbye.
See you all.
Danny.